If you see green, it means you're speaking, and the recording is now starting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so say nice things.
Okay, I will wait maybe one more minute, see if we get some more attendees.
I like how it tells me who I am.
Kind of don't like that it stays inside a browser.
Yeah. Well, make a list and send it to DCI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of browser meetings.
Well, has anybody actually tried to use the learner's website and communicate with others in your group?
You don't. It pops out for me.
The forum, there's a couple of forum chats in the Northeast already. Some of us are just chatting about a subject, and we just put our first webinar invite. We haven't branched it out into the others yet, but we're going to do one in February on AI, and we're going to do one in February on financial reports.
So the interesting thing that I've learned is, first of all, if I join another group to participate, all of my comments are required to be approved. So if you're not the leader and you go to somebody else's group and you make a comment, it is pending approval.
No, that's just you, Rob. We're just need to control what you say.
I was about to say that's the first I've heard of that.
I've worked with Lewis to get things done. The other thing is, unless you actually go to you've turned your communication on in the learners group, you have to go out there to see that somebody has made that comment. It doesn't automatically pop into your Outlook.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of learners education to put out there.
Yeah. Hey, it's our first national
We
user
were
group
thinking
meeting
of
for learners.
inviting
It's a learn as you go thing.
like Giuseppe to kind of help us with education on learners in one of for the Northeast. That way people can learn from an expert, assuming he's the expert. But we were thinking of that because we keep tinkering it around, but we figured we might as well get somebody like a Giuseppe to help out. So we did. I emailed him directly saying, "Are you willing to do this? Like maybe towards the end of this month or early February, if we did like a learner's education for anybody signed up, and then take the invite, smack it onto the main learner site, so that basically people can see it, or basically co-sponsor it between the regions." So I'm trying to work on that. I know there's a way to put it at the top. I just think they're responsible for that, not us. We can never get to the highest level. We can only be within our regions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Pam, I think you can email Pam if you want it done.
Yeah, she said she can distribute it across all regions. Like if you create it and then email her, like she can, as an admin, distribute it without having to accept approval from everybody.
Yeah, I just got 7 of them from her yesterday, all day long. She just put the road shows out there for half a year, and I got that, and I'm like, I said, oh, it all came from Pam. So obviously somebody's doing something from behind the scenes.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Welcome to our first January user group meeting of the year. This is our agenda for today. We will have a small summit update. We will go through some upcoming events that we have scheduled. And then we have 2 educational sessions, one from Robb and one from Steve Chinsky. So first I want to say welcome to our 2026 board members. They were nominated in at the end of December. And we expect to see a lot out of them this year. I'm not going to go through all the names. Some of y'all can't even talk today because you're not, I didn't promote you, sorry. But yeah, welcome and thank you. We are happy to get a lot out of y'all. And then, I don't know if anybody noticed, but I updated our little Business Central logo as well for our meetings. So, because I guess the logo is changing on the next, is it the next one? Yeah, the next update. So
it needs a hat
ahead of it. Okay, we'll start with our summit update. So I will hand that over.
Okay, just want to let everyone know that we're in the process of selecting our programming committee, And we are trying to encourage new people to be a part of the programming committee. So if you know of anybody or can suggest anybody, please have them fill out the form at this link that's on this slide. If anybody needs the link directly, just let me know. I'll be happy to send it to you. As of right now, there are 700 individuals have registered already for October. And our call for speakers will be open towards the mid to end of February. And they've told us that they have booked the Grand Ole Opry for the closing party on Wednesday night. So that's kind of exciting. And that's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
You know, I'm going to make this comment. You know, we're going to be submitting for the from mid to end of February call. When does it end?
I don't know. They didn't give us an exact timeline yet.
Well, what's interesting is October is the start of the next release, and we won't know what's in the new release till after the closing. So just making that comment.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Normally,
So
I think last year they put it out in early February, and they gave us until mid-March, or very close to the end of March, which in turn gave us the month of April to cull through it with a publication in May.
So again, my comment is we won't know any of the new functionality. We won't be able to submit any topics for the new functionality because it's not even we're not even going to have that roadmap till after that date.
Yeah, I mean, for October, I mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
we can do, so.
Okay.
Great, thank you. All right, next we'll have some learners and webinars updates. Learners, y'all, Angela, Shawn, y'all want me to do it or y'all got it?
I got it. So you guys are our first inaugural learners webinar participants. So thank you for joining. If some of your colleagues had any issues getting into here or they didn't see the meeting, just gently remind them that they need to be added to a region in learners in order to see these events. We did have some discussions with DCI actually just a few minutes ago, where they will be sending communication out to their databases, reminding people that like the most important step is to add to a region. But Learners is the platform where we're going to be obviously doing our webinars, our user groups, as they had mentioned beforehand, discussion posts and stuff like that. So it's right now it's a supplemental of the DCI website, but eventually this will be your one-stop shop for your content. So thank you guys for joining our first webinar, our user group, I guess.
All right, thank you. Okay, and just some upcoming events that are happening. As Steve said, all the road shows were actually scheduled on the Learners site, so you can find those there. Our next 2 national user group meetings should be posted within the next 2 weeks on the site. We're working through those, but this is the schedule for them, so just be on the lookout for those as well.
Yeah,
And
Jessica, I forgot one thing to mention. You know, currently right now they do have this as a topic to discuss with the vendor that they use the platform this with, but we don't have the ability to upload the slide decks to the webinar on the website right now. But we do have the ability to email attendees after the webinar. So we'll be able to take this slide deck and send it to you guys that are attending shortly after this ends.
Yeah, just to add to that. So also thanks for everybody for joining through the Learners platform. But I think it's important to call out, you know, we're just very, very early in this journey with Learners, right? And whether you're here as an end user, an ISV, or a partner, I guess the core messages from this first meeting and most meetings, if not every meeting beyond here into perpetuity, is we need to ask for your help. I need you to have your colleagues register into the Learners. If you're a partner, you need to communicate to your customers that they need to be into Learners. If they're not in there and assigned to a region, they will not know of any of the hard work that anyone is doing to make the community stronger through these engagements. So it's really important. DCI and the summit crew is not just going to drop everybody in and assign them to regions. That was made very clear because it's a separate platform. So the acceptance doesn't carry over there. So we need that work to be done all the time by everyone. So if I could ask everybody to do that, put that on the radar, I think it'd be helpful for this event and every event going forward.
Awesome.
So,
Blaine?
Shawn, going back to that about DCI, will they at least put advertisements out there from time to time for learners?
Without a doubt, Rob, they're going to continue to market, the events through their normal marketing engine, because they do have, when people sign up for that, they do. In order to be able to see the events when they happen, or to even look at the historic events, they're going to need to register into this event, into the Learners platform.
Awesome.
Blaine, did you have something to add?
Yeah. Oops, am I there? Yeah. So, I just wanted before we moved on to Robb, to touch on webinars real quick, even though I don't have a slide. So for everybody's knowledge, a couple slides ago, you might have noticed that David Laster and I are heading up the webinars this year, coordinating those, setting them up and whatnot. So, anybody out there, if you're seeing it live or you're seeing it on a recording right now, then definitely reach out to us. Let us know if you either have a topic that you would like to hear, or you have a topic you'd like to present. Either way, very interested to hear from you. In the meantime, we'll be definitely reaching out to folks to set something up. And as Angela and Shawn were touching on a little bit ago, we're working through learning, the new learners and making sure we know how to set these up. And the meeting just now with DCI help us down that path a little bit. So we do have one in the works that we're working to set up here. And so stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. You should be seeing something on that. And then as I think either Angela or Shawn touched on, DCI should be sending out some notices shortly to the whole user database that they have to get people to sign up. Again, the key on that, I'm going to repeat, but we'll probably be repeating as a board over and over again, is you gotta, as a user, go in and make sure you designate a region. So we'll be hitting that time and again. Thanks.
Great. All right. And with that, I will hand it over to Robb.
Thank you, Jessie. And let's see if we can do this correctly. And we'll do that. And before I do that, share. And yes, I know we're going to move this out of the way. And can everybody, did I share? Yes. Hopefully you're seeing my slide deck. Can somebody confirm?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're in presentation mode.
Present mode.
Presentation mode. Perfect. All right. So today's topic is Project WIP setups and postings.
Well, Robb, hold on. So, okay, now we can't see it.
Share again.
But you were in the presenter's mode. You were showing the presenter's screen, not the participants' version. So we could see your notes and your next screen, that kind of thing.
Now what do you see?
That's good.
That's good.
Yep.
Presentation.
All right. Well, that's because I don't know. I'm not following what I'm seeing. So let's see what happens when I hit next. Nope, that doesn't work. I'm going to have to do it this way. How's that?
Can see it, yeah.
I still don't know what you're seeing.
Project WIP setups and postings explained.
All right.
First slide.
All right, first slide. So let's see if this works. I guess I'm going to have to use the buttons down below. All right. So who am I? I appreciate all the group who knows who I am. I'm with L&L Consulting Services. That's how you can reach me. And I am a member of the BC3 Amigos that you can see on YouTube. I obviously didn't follow the slide that Jessie gave me, but here are the BC3 Amigos. And for those of you who don't know, you can get us on YouTube. and that's the YouTube address. So why did I decide to talk about projects today? Over the years, Microsoft has made a number of changes. I still go back to when it was Navision, and it was a little card, and you had buttons at the bottom and tabs at the top. But despite all the changes that Microsoft has made over the years, the basic premise of a project is to capture all the activity and costs associated with some kind of project. And while WIP calculations may or may not be applied, this particular session is dedicated to explaining how you would set them up and how projects and WIP impact the GL. So what can I expect to learn from this? Here you go. We're going to give you an overview of the setups and requirements. We're going to give you an overview of the project's postings, and then provide a little understanding about how WIP works. It's interesting how many calls I get about people who say, hey, I ran WIP and I'm not seeing it in the GL, or I've run WIP and it's posted into the wrong period. And that has to do with some of the setups and also the steps in processing WIP. So we're going to walk through some of this today. So project setups. This is the default project setups on my company, and I'll talk a little bit about each of the fields. First of all, automatic update project item costs. This is very important. A lot of times you'll post to an item to a project and it has an expected cost on it. If you have this turned on and you run the adjust cost post cost, as long as your project is still open, it will go out there and update the project costs for that item. Very important if you want to keep track of true costs. This next option is one of those that you've got to be very careful about how you use it. Do you want to apply the link by default? So that means that if I'm manually creating a purchase order and later on I'm going to issue the item to the project, do I want to link that to the task line that's out there? You've got to be very careful. I turn that off because unless you're using MRP to create your purchase orders and link it to the project itself, you don't really want to do that because it can update the budget. The budget is something that people are saying, hey, I've added an item out here and it's automatically updated my budget, even though it was already on the budget. And that's because that's what that planning line does for you. I'm going to explain why I don't like to use MRP to create the purchase orders down the road. You'll see that in a minute when I cover posting of purchase orders. And then this next option out there is to allow budget or billable lines by default onto your project. I always have that turned on. I've tested it without turning it on, and I can still activate budget and billable lines without having to do that. Doesn't hurt to turn it on, and it doesn't impact you if you turn it off. Default WIP. Now, if you're running WIP, you want to have, and typically most companies only run one method of WIP. I mean, I've seen companies out there that have multiple versions of WIP, but typically it's percent of completion or completed contract. And we'll talk a little bit more about WIP methods in a minute. But if you're only using one WIP method, this allows when you set up the project to automatically default on, and it always has that WIP method on there. This next one, by default, the default is per project. And a lot of folks ask, well, why do I get the same GL account when I'm deferring my expenses, whether it's an item or time or a GL account? And that's because you use it per project. When you do the whipping, posting WIP per project, you can only default it to one line, as opposed to depending on the type of resource or the type of item you've got, you can actually have multiple entries out there in your WIP. And we'll talk about that when I get to the next slide, which is our posting. Actually, when we get 2 slides down the road, when it's our WIP postings. Then our default posting group. If you're using only one WIP method, then you probably want to default that same project posting group into your projects. And again, these are defaults. As with everything else in Business Central, the default can always be overwritten once you get into the project. Something new that was added several versions ago, you can do multiple billings for multiple customers. In this case, most of the time I'm doing billings for one customer, so I wanted to default that to one customer. By the way, if you somewhere down the road decide that, oh, wait a minute, I need to do this task for somebody else, it's a little too late because you have to turn this on for multiple customers before you start the project. If you're printing quotes from the project, you want to know where the logo is going to print on the project. And most of the time, I'm not using the project quote. Also, something that's helpful here is the project number or the document number being the project number. And by default, if you turn that on, that means that when I'm posting my transactions, like you'll see later on, that will be my document number. So again, these are all very helpful. Again, they're defaults. If you want to change them once you get into the project, you can certainly do that. So let's go to the next one. And this is WIP methods. By default, Microsoft gives you 5 WIP methods, but I want to point out that the last one down there is something that you can manually create. And notice the first 5 all say system defined, but you can create your own. A few years ago, Cynthia Prevey created a article about using ACS or ASC 606 for reporting, and I took the advantage to show that as something that you could create in Business Central. This is the one that gives people the most perplexing issues. Down below is what comes out of the box, and most partners are using that when they set up our clients using projects. But it doesn't really help you understand what you're getting. And I need to move something out of the way here. And by default, I want to point out, as I mentioned earlier, the default when you're using your setup is project posting WIP by project, not by entries. Notice in mine up above, I have the 4th, 5th, and 6th columns where you put in GL account. I have numbers in there. And if you go down below, Microsoft doesn't. That's because I'm posting in detail. And that means that when I post inventory to a project and I want to defer the costs, I'm going to pull the cost out of that GL account. When I post time to a project, resources, I'm going to defer the costs out of that GL account. And then finally, if I'm using GL accounts for maybe miscellaneous supplies or project supplies, I can defer the GL account from this, as opposed to down below in their setup, it all pulls out of one GL account. And again, I also do allow you to do that. That is a choice you can pick on a project by project basis. So if I just have a generic GL account out there, or transactions that I don't need to worry about what I'm deferring, you see that I do actually have in that 3rd column where you have a GL account, the projected costs for the applied account. Also, I took the time to test all of the different WIP methods other than the manual one that I created out there. And as I say, when people are filling out their general business posting group setups or their general posting setups, not every column needs a GL account. And here you see that as we've gone through things, you don't have every column filled out. And I'm going to bring this back up again when we run WIP down the road. Oh, my forward isn't working now. Oh, say project requirements. So we've just gone through how you can use the setups to help you manage your projects. Here are a couple of keys about what's required for a project. First of all, every project must have a customer. I mentioned earlier that not everybody uses a project to run WIP, but you still have to have a customer on the project. And for those people who want to do something like that, but want to prevent people from posting to the project, I suggest setting up, and here you see I've got a projects only customer out there, and I've set up a separate customer posting group. And if you look at the customer posting group, it doesn't have a GL account. The testing only applies that it is a valid customer, meaning is there a project posting group, a customer posting group. If it's only later on when I go to post that it would look to see that's not a valid customer posting group. So here's how, if I'm tracking cost internally but don't want to do anything with WIP, I can actually set up an internal customer and not worry about somebody accidentally posting to it. And then I want to point out that typically projects must have, or typically they have multiple task lines. And here you see a typical project that we'll be working with later on. But at the same time, every project must have at least one task. Go back just a second here. You see that in this situation, I've got budgets and I'm expecting actual costs to be captured out there. But if we go down to here, I'm not really expecting a budget. I'm just tracking all my costs. So as I post time or material out to there, it will be actually captured. I once worked for a company where we were tracking technicians' downtime. They were supposed to be working on repairs, but if they didn't have repair time, we wanted to see what they were actually doing in their project downtime. So this allowed us to capture that separately. Posting options. So this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of it. Here are the different options you have for posting. You can do time postings, you can do time journals, but if you do a time journal, you've got to do some setups, you've got to have approvals, and then you've got to suggest those times into the from the time journal into the project journal. You can also do project journal manual entry. So I can post my time right into a project journal and post it to the project. I can also, from that project journal, suggest from budgeted lines. And then I can also update my project from posted purchase invoices. Off to the right there, you see some options for consuming materials. We could do project journals, which is issuing inventory from my inventory to the project, or I can update the posted purchase invoice. Want to point out here, and we'll come back to it, you'll see an example of it. Posting a receipt from a purchase order does not post anything to the project, which is the #1 reason why I'm not a fan of using MRP to create the purchase order for the project, because later on, until I actually close out that purchase order with an invoice, I'm not going to get any costs. And then we can use GL accounts to post to the projects, or also from a posted purchase invoice. So if we're going to use a resource and time card, then you've got to do this setup out here where we say the resource is going to use a timesheet and that we have to have somebody who's going to approve that timesheet. By the way, Jose here is using a timesheet, so that means I can't manually go out there and post time to his project. I will have to wait for him to submit his time and then approve it and post it. So now it's time for doing some posting time demos. So let me bring Business Central over, and I'm sure you're not seeing that, so I'm going to have to come back to, and I'm not sure where I'm coming back to. I'll have to stop sharing. And we'll have to come back into here, and we will share. Which screen am I going to share this time? Can we see Business Central now? Gonna need some help here. Can somebody see?
Yes.
Can see
All
it.
right. All right. So now let's go back and look at Jose for a minute, or I'm going back to my resource. My keyboard's not working. Do we still see Business Central on my typing resource?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
It's weird why that other screen isn't working here. All right, so we're gonna, wrong company. I got kicked out of everything. Yes, this is it. So we'll go to resources and we will go to Jose, and we will see that he is set up for timesheets. And now only authorized individuals can do this. So we will go ahead and we will create a timesheet for him. I'll do it for, and by the way, timesheets have to be created for the start of the week. So we're on the 19th, and I'm going to go ahead and create this in here for him. I'll do it for 1 week. And there's my timesheet. So he would go out to his timesheet now. And we would bring him up. And he would put in here that he is doing this for a project. We'll say downtime, because again, I'm posting him for a downtime, no service work available. And he would pick his project. And we'll scroll down to here, technician downtime. And he would put his task in here. And again, as I mentioned, he has to have a project task number to go with his project. And then we will put in here that he is doing 8 hours here and 8 hours here. And it was a very bad day, very bad week for him for its first 2 days. And we'll submit that time. And you want to submit your time. And at this point, we've now got to go back to the manager. So we'll go back to here as the manager. And I'll look for my timesheets to approve. And that's actually manager. And we see here that there's Jose's time, and he can approve that at this point or reject it. So we're going to say we're going to approve it. And again, so far we've gone through 3 steps. Jose has put his time in, he submitted it, the manager's approved it, and now we must go to the project journal. And we're going to go ahead on. I'm going to get this out of here since I actually will create a new one. New default and default project. And we'll go back over to here, and we will now say up here that I'm going to suggest lines from the timesheet. And we can pick a date, we can pick a time. Since I want to do it for Jose, I'll grab him out here, and we should be able to bring his time in. And there you see I've now got 2 sets of time, 1 for each day that he worked. And my last step would be to post this. And we've got our time out on the project. So let's go look at that project for just a second so you see it. This one right here. And notice we've now got some actual costs out here. But here's the important thing about this. There is time out here, but it has not had any impact on my GL. Remember, he is paid payroll. So if I were to look at this for a second and I were to find the entries, notice there are no GL entries out here. I've only impacted his resource and the project itself. Keep that in mind, because our next step is, oops, I've just lost us. Not really having fun with this new application.
Definitely going to need a learning curve for it, huh?
Absolutely. Let's bring back BC. And we will go now. And I can't tell. Are you seeing Business Central or not?
No.
Lori, you have a question. I'll do the question that's on the screen for you, Rob. Lori
Great.
asked, can you limit the project selection list on the timesheets to the lines they should be selecting? And I'll let you answer that question.
Okay, can you repeat the question for me, sir?
Can we limit the project selections that will appear on the timesheets lines for us for the resources?
We could with a slight modification, unless you are aware of some other way to do that, Steve.
No, I basically, Lori, if somebody's been assigned to the project task lines, like if I'm selecting resources, they'll appear, that would auto appear whatever they're selected, but it also has the ability to add time to anything if they're not selected as well, in case they're not been budgeted and on the project task lines. So to limit it just to what they're assigned to and nothing else, yeah, we would have to do a slight, small customization to limit them to select others that maybe you don't want them to.
Well, the other thing that's where the supervisor's approval comes in, and he can verify that. So
absolutely.
Okay. So now the other thing is, as I said, so that was using a time card, but not everybody likes to use all of that. So we're going to go back to a project for a minute. I'm going to use this project right here. And so the other thing we've got down here is the ability from here to actually record time from here. So if I come into my planning worksheet for a minute, I'm on the wrong one for a second. Let me go down to here. So we're going to do some evaluation stuff, project planning lines. And I'm on this guy right here where I've got some budgeted time. And notice, here's the other thing. Not everybody is putting in all of the people who are out there. We've got time out there that is just budgeted because we don't know who's going to be assigned to this project. It might be like a implementation project. We might have 4 or 5 people assigned to the implementation, but we know that it's going to take X number of hours. So from here, we can open up the project planning line and we can, and let me make sure I'm in the right company. Hang on a second. Oh, because I changed from default to Konstas. Let's go back to here for a second. I've now got him linked in here. Here is his 8 hours that we're going to post to the project. This is the project that we're doing it on, and it's already assigned to his task. So we'll go ahead and post that. Remember, this time I'm posting from the project itself. And let's go back and look at the project just like we did on the other one. Let's go back to our project entries. And now I've got some actual time out here. And just like before, there is no GL entry. Remember, it's still, we're paying this individual to do our work. He has probably got some payroll that he's getting, or that's hitting our P&L. So this is where WIP down the road is going to help us defer those costs. But right now, there is no entry on the, no GL entries from the project time. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to my presentation again. And hopefully we now see this, and I'll do it from the current slide. And we will come down to, oh. So what happens when I run WIP? And I'm going to give you a little overview before we actually do that. Remember, we posted time. And by the way, I'm only going to be doing time for the project, the actual project that we just posted the time for. That time where I was capturing it for the technician's downtime, I'm not concerned about that. I'm only using that to capture information. So I get to select which projects I'm going to be calculating WIP for. So in this case, I'm just going to point out what we're doing here. Remember, it was $988. So originally we posted an expense, and this is where I'm saying we posted expense out there to the project. We don't want to have it hit that GL account. This happens to be percent of completion. So the first step is I'm going to defer my expenses, and then I'm going to recognize those expenses. And also because it's percent of completion, it is assuming that based on the total budget, I am going to get some recognized revenue. So let's go back up here for a second and say, well, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Well, I'm crediting GL account 5170. If you drop down here a minute, we're deferring labor costs because we said, and this is where I've highlighted it, we're deferring that account, and it's going into my WIP account over here. My WIP, whoops, went too far on that. Give me a second to get back. So we're deferring it. So this is where those GL entries come from. But at the same time, because I'm using percent of completion, I'm actually going to recognize those costs. So if we scroll over to the right, we recognize that these are the GL accounts we're going to recognize for the project. And I'm also going to recognize revenue. So this is where the project posting group determines what these entries are going to be. And so that we can see that, I'm now going to go back in and run the actual process in WIP. And let's see what happens if I do that and do this. Let's see if we can be more efficient in doing this. Stop sharing, and we're going to share again. And this time I'll share this. And do we see BC again?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's go back to the project now, and we're going to see what actually happens. And this is the great part. People say, well, oh, I screwed up. How do I do? What can I do? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually calculate WIP. And I'm going to run it as of whatever date I can run it at. I'm going to run it as of the end of the month. I don't even know. Let's go take a peek at what I posted that as. Ran it in December, and that's a good thing, because what I'm going to explain now is how I suggest people manage WIP. Every month end, you should be running WIP for your open projects to defer the costs you incurred in that month. And then when a project is completed, you want to run WIP for just that project. So in this case, we're running it, we'll assume we're going to be running it for all projects that would be out there, but I'm going to calculate WIP. And I'm going to do it as of December 31st, because I say we should be doing it for all open jobs as of the end of a period. So we're going to go ahead, and I've got my filter on for just that project for now. And we'll say, okay. So the great thing about this is it gives me the opportunity to preview. So I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to open that up. This is exactly what we saw in that last screenshot I had on my PowerPoint slide deck. Now, this is where people say, hey, guess what? I ran WIP and I don't see it in my GL. Well, we haven't posted anything to GL yet. There is an option. This is an option to say, oh, I screwed up. So I'm going to close this for a second. And it gives you this question here. Do you want to post that? I'm going to say no for a moment, because people don't realize what they've done when they've ran WIP. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing. And the reason this is really valuable, and we're going to go to the WIP cockpit. And we're going to look at that project for a moment. And in here, you see what we've done. And it says basically that we've calculated WIP, but we haven't posted WIP to the GL at this point. So I also have the option here to come in here if I've realized I've made a mistake and delete my WIP. Notice right here, I've got it out here, but what's been posted to the GL is nothing. Nothing's been posted to GL at this point. So I can come out here and delete that. And if I delete it, they're gone. Nothing's on there. I have to go back to that project now, rerun WIP, and we'll do it real quick, calculate it. I'm going to do it now as of 12/31. It gives me those same answers. I look at them again, and this time I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to post that. Yes, we'll say go ahead and post. And I'm going to post it as of 12/31. And my WIP is posted. So now, if I go back to the GL for just a second, the chart of accounts, I can come down here, and this is my WIP. And notice the great thing about this is it does post the project number. I happen to set up dimensions so they are identical to what the project number is. But in this case, even if I wasn't doing dimensions on the project, I would see it in here. And if I clear my filter for a second, get rid of that GL account, you see that everything I've posted has come in and out of the accounts. All right, let's go back to our slide now. And hopefully now we will go from this current slide deck. Purchase order options. And this is one of those things I mentioned earlier. How do you want to purchase for it? I've given you, in this instance, two separate options. I wish I had changed the amounts, but I didn't think about that because my budget was for 10,000. I've split it. Part of it is I'm buying directly for the project, and part of it is I'm buying it for inventory and I'm going to issue it from the inventory. And we'll go down to here for a second and walk through some stuff. Oops. Did I go? So, yeah, I went too fast here. So we'll go back to here. So when I'm posting directly for from the purchase order, it's going to post that directly to the project. Well, it's not actually, it's going to post it into the, taking it out of inventory. But now the other half of it, I have to go out and I have to actually issue it because remember, it's sitting in my inventory. I like this method better because as soon as I post this to the project, I'm going to get costs out there. And we're going to go see that in just a second here. So we're going to see what happens when we post that. And I'm going to explain. When I post my purchase receipt, obviously I'm going to get an inventory value and I'm going to get GL entries from that. Whoops. And I'm trying to slide that down. I got to get this out of the way. So from the purchase receipt, you see these first four lines. I get an inventory account. I've got the accrual, and then I'm taking it out of inventory and I'm booking it to whatever I've said that inventory adjustment account is for issuing inventory. Down below, notice I've taken the inventory out, and this is from the actual the inventory that's going in. This is now sitting in inventory. The top four lines are where I've issued it to a project, and the bottom two are where I'm saying I'm buying it for inventory, and then I'll issue it out there. So let's go see what happens when I run with. So we're going to go find that purchase order. And there are the two sets of lines I've got out there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to post that just as it is. And post it as of, I'll post it in this, I want it in January now. So let's cancel for just a second and make sure it's going to be a January transaction. There's my posting date, January. And I'm just going to receive it. And let's make sure I'm receiving. Yes, I've got 5,000 each to receive. And I'll post that receipt. And now let's go to the project. Oh, before we do that, let's go to an item journal and issue the items that I've got first. Actually, I could do it right from the project. So if I go to my planning lines, and I open the project journal, there's what I'm issuing. I can only issue what's actually in inventory, so I'll go ahead and post that. And now, remember, I've bought 5,000 from the purchase order directly for the project, and I've got 5,000 that I've just issued. Let's go look at what's on our project right now. Notice I only have the first 10,000. If I drill into that, the first 5,000, because I only get transactions from a purchase invoice, not from the purchase order itself. Number one reason why I like to issue inventory as opposed to buying it for the project. And I'm going to explain what I recommend for folks. If you're buying for multiple projects and you're buying it and not issuing it directly to the project, I suggest setting up separate bins for those projects so that when the project is theoretically completed, you can go out to that bin and verify there's nothing left in there. One of the biggest issues that happen to people is they create these purchase orders for projects. They go ahead, remember, we've received it, somebody has taken it to the project and they've completed all the work that's out there and they say the project is done. But that cost is not out there. There is no warning that says, oh, by the way, you've got open purchase orders out here. So when they go and close the project and run WIP and say they're finalized, they've understated the cost that they've incurred on that project. Later on, they're going to get a purchase invoice for that purchase order. And they're going to be like, I can't post my purchase invoice because the project is closed. Well, the only solution to that is they're going to have to reopen the project and post that purchase invoice against the project. Or they can go in and do some systemic stuff to delete the project line from there. But again, now they've understated the value of that particular project. And again, if I run WIP out there, I'm only going to get WIP for what I've actually incurred that's out here. Let's take a look at the project real quick. What we've got to cover. I'm going to do it one more time here. So now, remember, I'm not complete, but I do run WIP. So I'm going to go back and run WIP one more time. And this is where people also get confused on what happens when they run WIP. So we're going to calculate WIP one more time. I'm going to run it as of today. It's not the end of the month, but I want you to see the information that's out here. I get to pick the date that I want to post at. You saw earlier I was running it. It defaults to today's date, but I can pick any date I want as long as my posting dates are open. So I'm going to leave that as the date, but I will tell you that I've had people close projects that they wanted to close in the prior month. And there's this option out here. After we run this, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to say, okay, for just this project, you're going to see what happens out here. It was correct. Now, here's what happens. It's reversing what was previously out there. Remember, we had 988 out there. It's reversing that. And it's recalculating and saying, oh, wait a minute. We now have a new amount that's out here. And there's my new WIP. There's my new revenue account because I've got more cost. Revenue is going to be increased. So let's go look at the cockpit real quick. And I'm not going to post yet because I don't want to do that. And we're going to look at this and notice now my recognized costs are this amount versus what was previously posted. Remember, we haven't posted this yet. This will be updated when we do that. And this is what was originally posted as sales revenue. Now this will be the actual sales when we post all of that that's out here. Again, you get to see this from the cockpit. And if I needed to recalculate one more time, maybe I recognize, wait a minute, I didn't get the purchase invoice for that. I can come back out here, delete this, update the costs on that project, and go ahead and run that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to go back to the project, and I'm going to post my WIP. And this is the great thing about it. So let's say for a moment that, and this is where I've had people have issues before, I can actually only reverse what I want and recalculate WIP all over again. I'm not going to do that today, but if I did hit reverse only, it would automatically calculate and wipe out what was previously there. So if I posted into the wrong period, I would just say, oh, I want to reverse as of that period and reverse only. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and post. And WIP was posted. We'll do one more look at the chart of accounts. And we're going to go into here and you'll now see that, and I'm going to get rid of my filter and we'll filter it. So these entries right here are where I received against the purchase order. These others are all the entries I've created from posting to WIP. Okay, let's go back to the slide deck. And we'll stop sharing and we will share one more time. And we will slide from the current slide here. So what happens when we run WIP? We just saw it. This is what happens. And these are why we get those entries, going back to what we just saw earlier. Any questions? Hopefully I've given you a better understanding of how posting to projects impacts the project and the GL. Okay, Steve, I guess there are no chats, so we'll turn it over to you.
Yep, I'll swap out my sharing ability.
As I turn it over to you, I will wish everybody a very happy Hat Day.
All right, gang. I'm gonna stay on the video that way. I'm not sure where the echo's coming from, but I will try to find it while I'm swapping.
I hope you do better with it than I did.
All right, gang. Here we go. All right, I'm going to start the slideshow.
Rob, you may want to mute. I think the echo's coming from you.
Yep, I think the echo's gone. Yep, it is. All right, gang. Hopefully you can see my slide deck. I think you can because I'm seeing it on my other screen that I'm watching here. So for the next, give or take the next hour, I'm going to go through a couple of slides, not a lot, and then basically jump right into the software. I like demoing this more than anything. But, you know, my boss yesterday screamed and yelled at me and said, take a physical inventory, but I don't know how. So guess what, gang? Let's try to learn how we can take a physical inventory. I'm not doing this in a handheld. I'm doing this in base BC. So I think you should learn here first. And then obviously, if you're doing it through handheld, there's obviously other solutions that can be done with some of our ISV partners, as well as the fact that, you know, this can always be done, you know, with a traveling tablet or iPad or something. Apologize for the small cough ahead of time. All right, so this is me. I'm not going to sit here and go through this, but a lot of you know who I am. Steve Chinsky here, south of Boston. Today, I'm actually down in Tampa, going home today from a meeting yesterday. But these are things about me. I'm a Microsoft MVP. And then also, if you need to get a hold of me, that is my email address and my LinkedIn and my phone number. And as Rob said, you can find us on BC3 Amigos. I think that's enough about me. Here's the small agenda, and it is going to be super small. The idea is really, let's review the process of how do we even do a physical inventory or a cycle count. What is the general process in and of itself, base BC? So you can take all this information today. I want you to go back, and I want you to set up doing cycle counting. Go to a sandbox. If you're in Business Central, play along. If you're in Nav still, guess what? Some of these steps are available in Nav, and some of the steps are not. When I get to actually doing the physical, I'll mention which is not going to be in the Nav space. Then let's get through some setup of that item card. Let's get it all set up and get it ready to go. And then guess what? Enough with the slides. Let's just do a full demo from beginning to end. Let's start from the process of the item card. Let's get it all the way through the physical inventory. Let's get that accounted for so that both the warehouse and the accounting department can say they did their physical inventory for the year. And a lot of you, obviously, if you're a calendar company, you probably did a lot of this in December. But guess what? If you're a retail organization, you're probably not going to do that until the end of January when the retail season ends. Or if you're somebody who has a fiscal year in different months, obviously you might take your physical then. All right, so let's review the process here in general of how this all works. First and foremost, you know, the process. Obviously, we're here to count inventory by using, you know, the document, you know, so we can actually go through a simple step-by-step action here. And I will say that Microsoft has changed the process from the NAV days to the BC days. So let me explain. In NAV, we used to go to a physical inventory journal. You can create one using cycle count processes from the item card, or just do a complete physical and just say I'm doing every item. In BC, we have something called the physical inventory order document. This has actually given us better control, better audit tools to actually take and do cycle counting or physical inventories. I like the tool a lot from being an ex-accountant. I think it makes my life easier. It makes my auditability and my recounting a lot easier than the old way, which was very bland, and you went to a journal and you kind of just went with it. So obviously, we're going to create a physical inventory order. Pretty straightforward. We'll have a little fun making them with what BC expects the quantities to be pre-filled. They're only visible to obviously the inventory control person, or whoever is basically the person responsible, controllers, accounting managers, inventory control, whoever's creating this physical inventory order. And you'll see it in a second. We're going to generate one or more inventory recordings. Yes, recordings. This is pretty cool. You actually can now slice your inventory or your cycle count into multiple recordings. So if I'm going to send 4 people out into the warehouse to count, I can create 4 recordings for which they will then input the actual results of my counting. Now that counting could be on paper. That counting could be on a tablet or a Surface or a laptop. They're going to run around in a cart doing it. That also, remember, a tablet and something can also scan. So if obviously you're scanning, again, putting aside the handhelds for now, that process, but also you can just send this to Excel and re-import it. That's pretty cool. Give it to them Excel, have them run around, re-import the count 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So again, different ways of doing those recordings. We're going to enter those counted items on the recordings that are captured. And then, of course, we're going to set our recording to be finished. And then, of course, the finished counts will be transferred to the physical inventory order document, for which we will then analyze the differences. Maybe we'll do a recount. Maybe we won't. We'll see the positive and negative adjustments that are about to take place. And then, of course, we'll close out that order. We'll complete it. And then we'll post our physical inventory and lock it down. Let's look at the item card, because this is kind of where everything kind of has to start from when you think of physical inventories or cycle counting. Again, I will demo this. We'll go to the item card obviously in a second, but on the warehouse fast tab, and for those of you who didn't know what fast tab was, again, on the cards you have those breaks or those segments or those sections, and those are called fast tabs. So if you open the fast tab, you can certainly show less, show more, but on the fast tab itself, there are a few fields. The first field you'll see is physical inventory counting period. Now, normally when we set this up, a lot of people say, I want to break my inventory into hottest thing on the, hotter than sliced bread or ice cream. You've got items that are kind of, they do move along in a nice clip. So let's, we've got medium inventory. We've got stuff that I only sell a few times a year. So maybe let's call them the slow movers. And then you've got the dead stuff, the stuff that God knows if you sell one in an entire year or two, and we might count them once a year. So you break them into what I call counting periods. Things I might want to count every week, every month, maybe things I want to count every quarter, things I want to count twice a year, and things I want to count once a year. So we call that the ABCD method. When you set that up, you set a period in time, and when you actually enter the field, it will actually figure out when the next time you're going to count is. And it actually sets that in motion. It keeps track of the last time you've ever counted it, as you can see on the right side of the fast tab. It tells you the next counting start period is going to be of November. I'm going to count it again. Now, of course, I count every month. So I'm supposed to count this item in the month of November. When I finish November, it'll then move it to December, and so on and so forth. And it's a great way of actually keeping your warehouse and the internal control, inventory control pieces kind of moving along. I do not have to wait once a year, and when the controller or accountant says, count the inventory. If I do cycle counting throughout the year, normally whatever you haven't counted for is what you should be counted for when you take that physical, because you're always up to date. If I count something every month, then I'm going to count that every month, inclusive of the last month of my fiscal year or my calendar year. If I count something maybe every quarter, you're still going to count it at the end of the quarter again at the end of the calendar year. If it's semi-annual, it's going to be in there. And of course, it's annual, it's going to be in there. So this might reduce the amount of counting you do depending upon the policy of counting you implement in terms of your counting periods. With that said, guess what, gang? That's all the slides. We're going to go into demo mode. So I'm going to basically hit escape just so that you can stop seeing my thing. We'll leave the slide deck there. We're going to minimize. And I'm going to come over here and open up. Hopefully you can see Business Central. I'm watching the screen, so if you can't, I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back to my display and change out my stop here. So give me a second. It's not appearing properly. So let me just do this. Since I'm left in demo mode, I'm going to minimize that and come over to share. And I'm going to stop sharing and swap out the screen to the next window, which is Business Central. And there you go. Business Central appears. This doesn't work like Teams, where if you drop things, it appears. The next one appears. It's got a little quirkiness to it, learners. So, all right, gang, Business Central, let's have some fun. First, I want to start off with the basics. Let's go to the item card and let's have a little fun there. And we'll pick one item that we need to count. And then we kind of let's learn what the item card has. So if I open up one item card, I'm going to pick my touring bicycle here. I'm going to go scrolling all the way down to my fast tab called warehouse. As you can see, it's right here. And in there, I've picked my A method. Again, if I do my drop down here, you can see that I'm going to count my hot items 12 times a year, my fast movers 6 times a year, my normal sales or medium value twice a year, and of course, my slow movers once a year. Very popular in most organizations. This is the way most people like to set it up. You, of course, can add, you can have as many as you want. There is no right or wrong here. You would basically, based on the inventory control or based on your counting frequencies, set up as many as you need and attach them to every item card. This will help make cycle counting much easier and potentially minimize the amount of counting you have to do at the end of that calendar or fiscal year. Obviously, you can see this item, the last inventory date, it has never been counted for because I was supposed to count this in December. It was not counted, so therefore that date has never occurred, nor have I done it even in a previous count. So we'll actually kind of play with this item as well as others when we actually get to the counting. After I set all this up, and that's pretty much the only major setup you have to do, the next big thing is let's start and do a physical inventory. Again, if you've never done this before, always try to place them up here in your action list or the action areas that are on your main menu area. So I've got physical inventory set here. Of course, you can type PHY space INV, and that will be one of your first choices. That'll be here. So let's have a little fun. Let's go into physical inventory. I've got a bunch set up here. I try to do this ahead of time, but of course, let's go play again. Let's set up a new one here, and let's count. We'll hit the next number in the number series. Always set up the number series, of course, because it's a document, so that it has something to do. Let's call this one, we're going to call this the National UG Count. Again, you can pick locations. I always like to do that. Let's pick a nice location. I'll pick my blue one, for instance. Could I assign this entire document to one person? Sure, if I can. I don't have to, but it's a nicety. Will I assign the recordings to people? Absolutely, the ones who go out and count. All right, moving on. The order date, I always like to today I'm counting it today. So if I pick T for today, the posting date, I'll leave today. Again, dimensions, I'll leave alone. When I'm all said and done here, there's really nothing. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to minimize this general section so you can see the line section here. I can do notes, but again, I'm going to remove my notes now so I can get more real estate out of this picture. And of course, I've got nothing yet to calculate. So first and foremost, we need to prepare my document. I know this sounds funny. It's a lot of these menu choices kind of look like other documents when we do various actions. But here we're going to go through and click prepare. You'll see the word calculate. You'll drop it down. What do I have the option to do here? I have the option to calculate a counting period. So here I'm going to do the counting period for my items within my main location or stock keeping units for which I've set up counting periods. And again, let me repeat this. If I do stock keeping units, I'm going to do counting is done by stock keeping units. If I'm just without stock keeping units, obviously I'm looking at the item card and the location that I'm filtering on. In this case, the blue location. I can just calculate everything. Just go out and add all the items in the system that I have in here based on my blue location. No questions asked. If I use bins or bin mandatory, please, please, please always click this one here because I want to calculate things based on the bins in the warehouse. That way I'm doing it by bins. This does it by counting periods, by stock keeping units. If you had bin mandatory, here also it's going to include that. That is because it's a necessity. And this just says, please dump all the items into my system regardless. Now, you'll see the lines here. I've got my location set forth right here. I do have other lines over here, dimensions if necessary. Could I add the bin here? Yes, of course. Obviously, I can personalize it. For the time being, let's just go through and calculate this to keep moving along here. I am going to calculate my first one is going to be a counting period. So obviously, when I open it opens up the physical inventory item section where I can pick and choose as many items as I want. You do know this, of course, is the same prompt that happens on my physical inventory journal if I'm going to do counting period. So the old way carried forward here to the physical inventory order. Again, just like BC allows it, I can click on my first line here to highlight it. I can just hit my shift key, highlight all the lines. I can highlight every single one. I can click them off. I can say, you know what? I want to do items A, A and B. So if I come over here, just like in other areas of BC, I'm going to set up a filter, and my filter is going to drop it down. I'm going to say, give me my hot items. I'll say, okay. And I'm only left with a few items, and I can just take all these items by using my shift and say, yep, that's enough for me. I'm going to calculate my quantity expected, meaning what BC thinks I have on hand right now in the system in my subledger. And I will also include any hot items that I might not have on hand. God forbid I find them somewhere in the system where somebody forgot to actually account for it in the subledger. If I click OK, goes out, takes a whopping second, it fills in everything in my blue location, everything that's here that I need to account for. Now let's talk about the expected here. Let's talk about the fact that there's tracking information, and then expected calculator, and then of course item tracking lines. So what it brought over was this. Number one, obviously the item. Number two, the location. If there was a bin, the bin would have been here. My blue location does not have bin mandatory. This is what BC says. I need 5, 953, etc. Again, the quantity has been calculated. It's just telling me I did my count. And I'll talk about this in a second. This is what quantity expected tracking the base in terms of what the base says. Right now, the base of this, of course, tracking using item tracking here. So obviously, I do not have serial numbers or item tracking on the rim. However, my salmons, heck yeah, they have lot numbers. And I expect to find a lot number for 631 and a 623. That's why the use item tracking is flagged here. It's telling the person, the internal control person, the warehouse manager, the inventory control, that guess what? When I count these, my users had better find lot numbers. Just taking a drink, gang. These other columns tell me if somebody's made a recording and the recording has come forward to here. We'll talk about that in a second. How many, obviously, the recording lines that do exist or not exist. How many things have been finished. Positive, negative adjustments that have to go here. Of course, dimensions and stuff like that. Some of the features that I love about this is this. Number one, there are statistics. I know it sounds funny. You can get statistics here of what is expected and what's actual. Some of the more options under actions here, under functions. Why do I have calculate quantity expected? Here's the fun part, gang. Let's say, as you know, my boss told me to count this stuff. Let's make believe it is December of this past year. I need to do my count on or about the week of between Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to do a count for the year. Well, I could prep all this up early December, have this all calculated, have all my physical inventory, maybe create some recordings, maybe not, but I can have all this preset. Here's the fun part. On the day I want to actually execute my physical inventory, I come here. This is all filled in. Let's say there's 1,000 rows, 500 rows, 500 recordings, whatever it is. As many things are in here plus the recordings. I made this on December 5th. On December 29th, which is the Monday for the last day of the new year, I come up here, I can calculate. I say all order lines. I say just calculate it. Boom. So say on December 5th, this said 3, this said 800, and these had new numbers. When I click calculate, it upped it to 5, 953, and 631. Just make believe. Now I'm set to go. I've locked my numbers in place. My team can go to the warehouse and start counting. Another nice feature also in the menu structure up here that's listed here is I can recalculate everything. I can start over again and make basically all the menu items here are under, of course, functions. Posting, again, we'll talk about that later. And you can print the main screen out, the physical inventory order out if you want to. Not that one would. Okay, let's go back to home. And at this point, I've calculated all this. I need to send my team to the floor to actually do the counting. So I'm going to make a recording. And the recording, only lines that are not in any other recording. I can also make you do a recording without an order, meaning I can actually enter a random item that I find that is not physically in the order in and of itself. Again, it defaults to the physical inventory header. I then pick my location in my system, which I'm going to pick blue. I'm going to tell it, I can basically down here pick any other thing I want to filter on, but I'm not going to for our conversation. So for now, I'm going to click OK, and it created a recording. Now, to get the recordings, you guessed it, you can just click on the word related, order, and go see the recordings. And you'd see the recording here. Now, I could have split this up between 4 people, let's say one per area. Maybe my warehouse is so big, 25,000 square feet, that everybody takes a third of it. So obviously, I can do it by bins, so that's one way of splitting it up. You can imagine how easy this could be if I'm handing this out to people, whether on paper, a tablet, a Surface, whatever it is, to go out there and count all this. What is under the recording? Under the recording, I now can set forth. Let's say the person responsible that's going to counter this is Bart. Bart's going to basically be responsible for this. The person recording this is going to be Bart. Bart might have a helper, but let's say Bart's really the one responsible. Again, the date recorded, it's going to be today. I'm going to pick today just for our conversation, and it can track the time recorded as well. Now, Bart gets this. He can get his printout. I can export this to Excel. Told you that a little bit that earlier. Love the fact I can put this into Excel and then really just run around with a cart counting all this, or a tablet, and then re-import it back in and fill in this grid. Let me remove this section here, the fact boxes, and make this wider. So at this point, Bart goes out. Bart can be walking around with this. Bart sees a touring bike. He comes here. It's blue. It's not telling him what I expect. This is hidden. It's a blind count system. No way will my user in the warehouse know what to expect. They're going to tell me the actuals. You should never give somebody going out to the warehouse the number. Why? Because if they would want to be lazy, God forbid, they could just take the number and say, yep, that's what I found, goodbye. And they'll never know the truth. Here, they're forced to tell me something. So Bart comes in, he finds 4 bicycles. He finds, 2 rims. The salmon, oh, wait, I know I have item tracking, so let's be good here. So let's say Bart finds 630 of this. He then can go into the lot number field again and come over to this, and I'm just going to get rid of these pop-ups here, click my 3 dots, and let's say, he picks that, he finds 630. Let's forget about this bottom one. You can do both. Excuse me. You can put in both, just like normal lots. If you pick this one, it's 580, and this one is 51, so you can pick both lines. Of course, you do that, by hitting the line and going into, I'm sorry. Sorry. If I have to split it between lot numbers, I can actually split the line here and add another one here. I can pick 488, and here I can put 581. And again, you can do this also in Excel. It is intelligent enough to know 581. Come over here and enter my line. My first lot is 580. I'll go back and fix that. 580. And of course, I could add a line down here. I could do 488. And I can come over here, and then it automatically knows it. And I think the next one was 51. And so I can go back to here and, of course, pick the 51 lot. And again, in Excel, somebody would have been doing this for me. So I've got the 51 here. Let's now do the other salmon here. And again, let's put in, I think that was also 630, but let's look at the first lot in question here. Oh, look, it created 2 lines for me. I didn't have to do this twice. The recording is that intelligent enough to know that if I expect 2 lot numbers, it will create the correct number of lines for me. If I'm doing a serial number, let's say I have an item and it's a serial number. A serial number always is a unit of 1. If I have 10 serial numbers, I expect to see 10 lines in front of me because that's what I expect. Now, again, I know this is, I'm not giving them the quantity. I'm just giving them the correct number of lines here to actually do to enter the information. I'm going to remove this because obviously I don't want this up here because it's already here on line 489 for me. I'm going to come in here again, pick that lot number, and I'm going to pick 580, and you can see that we can go to town. Now, one thing to note, if you're saying, hey, wait, Steve, that item is 489, that's different from 488. Again, you can go 488 and repeat what I just did and add the other one. I'm not going to add it, and I'm just going to short the system because I just want to get through our demo this morning. But you can add it here just like I did before. The system is smart enough to do all that. And again, I'll just pick 51 and I'll backfill it. Now, I'm Bart. Bart is out there with Sally. Sally and Bart are counting the area. They finish what they do. Every recording has taken place. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot finish and flag this recording as done until every line has been counted and recorded. If you can't find it, record it as 0 and still check the box that it's 0. If you need help, get help. It will not finish if you did not enter all of your item tracking lots or serial numbers, depending upon what you're doing. So again, you cannot click finish unless the recordings are all done. When they're all done, I can import this if it's Excel. I can print this out to give it out to Bart and Sally to run around if they're not using a tablet or Surface or a laptop. I could have done this to paper. But when I click finish, the recording is done. The status is set to finished. It tells me it's finished. Could I reopen this and do more? Absolutely. Reopen it and fix it. Reopen it, it's back to fixing. I can go and recount it if I want, and then send them to the floor to do a recount. Again, when everything's all said and done, let's click finish. And we're done. So let's step back one sheet. Let's look at how this looks. Again, this is the recordings. It says it's finished. Person who did it was Bart. I'm going to step back one more sheet, and you'll notice the recordings are coming in 42, 631, 581. You've got them all here. At this point, let's make believe we're all done. I need to find out how good or how bad my team is doing here. So I need to, of course, say that I'm finished. And what finish will do is it takes the data and it starts figuring out the positives and negatives. Now, I can reopen this to go get everything recounted. But for me to at least see the math of my differences, I need to click the word finished. So if I click finish temporarily, it says finished. Haven't posted anything, but you can actually see the positives and negatives. This is kind of where inventory control, or the person who's responsible for all of inventory, is going to see exactly what's about to happen. In my case, I've got a big hit I'm about to take into the P&L because I've lost inventory that I cannot find, and I'm going to take that inventory adjustment. Obviously, I could say, okay, something's wrong. Reopen this. Let's go to the recording. Let's recount. Send 5 people out looking for the missing items if necessary. In addition to clicking finished, also, and I know it can reopen it, you can run a few reports. Obviously, you can do the preview posting, which of course goes out there, allows the actual inventory control person, controller, accountant to at least figure out what I'm about to see. Obviously, you'll get the value and value entries. This is a physical inventory ledger, so therefore you get a ledger entry under physical inventory. You get the item ledger because obviously I'm going to take a hit. I'm changing inventory. And of course, you get your general ledger entry table to tell you exactly where all the debits and credits are going and all the hits I'm about to take. And obviously, all the hits are going to go whether I'm reducing inventory, and of course, it's hitting inventory adjustment. I'm going to step back here just a second off the posting preview. Let's talk about a couple of other things. If I do want to print this report out, I can print out all the physical inventory recordings. I could also print out my master report here. Now, this basically, I love this report. I like the way it was designed because it is an all-encompassing report. Now, let me blow this up for you and show you why I love this so much as an accounting person. First, it tells me, again, what count I did, and it's going to tell me my differences. So it tells me my items. A touring bike looked good, no differences. Recorded that, no differences. Again, the differences being here, the quantity negative, sorry. The quantity negative is showing you the differences here. My apologies for that. And what the dollar amount is. So for one bicycle that's being different, it's going to cost me $1,400. For 951 differences of rims, it's almost $1,000. And again, when you have the serial and lots, it's giving you the breakdown of what it found on the expected item tracking. I expected to see these two. I ended up with these two. And then, of course, this other, there's a difference here. So if you think about it, expected serial lots, what I found in the recording, and of course, what the hit I'm going to take is, that difference, of course, in that small difference in all 69. And again, down here, the same thing. You've got the same variable down here in this other salmon item. Now, again, this to me is an accountant's dream, because here I'm breaking it down as to what is going to happen. You can certainly save this report, send it to Excel, of course. The auditor might want to see this because he's going to want to examine what the differences were and why. And you can give him at least the evidence and the audit file right here. Step off this for just a second. Go back one screen. Give it a second to go. Let the gerbil internet connection hopefully run faster. And of course, under the other menu options here, again, just to show you, you can run statistics. The action thing is just going to show any duplicate line. Want to, that's very important. If there are any duplicates, meaning it was on 2 different recordings, or if there's any duplicates, and of course, the inventory recording report. So I love, and again, I think this is because it allows to look at something in a summary format before I have to dig deeper. So if I look at all the lines, I expected 4 lines, 17. This is what I expected. This is the accounting manager, controller, CFO. Says, what's the big hit to take, or what's the difference that I'm? You can just run statistics, and it actually tells you, hey, this is what we're recorded, and here's the hit. I'm going to take a $2,800 based on the 4 lines. Going to step back, and of course, when I'm all done, I hit the post button. I'm going to do the post button here because we did A. Undo that the post will go through, and of course, we're going to do one more, show you a little do. It's all done. This I'm going to basically look at a physical inventory count. I'm just going to show this one. Again, this I created. You can see how this one I created. This was back in January 31st. It just dumped through, and the location was called Blaine. Now I dumped all this through in here, a few lines of random stuff, but obviously I can go in, and if I did not have the recordings in place, I can also go in and just do the action. I can regulate the expected. I can do it all lines, or I can do it on only the non-calculated lines. I'm going to again pick all. I go through. It takes a second here. I don't have much inventory, and again, it all comes here accordingly. Now, that also means it would have pushed through down to the recordings. Some of these recordings I have not, you can see I haven't started anything yet. I've only done a few here because I did recordings. So if I come in here and go to the recordings, I have a very small one here because it's finished. I picked only a few items. I picked it in a very bins. This is one recording that has been totally finished. If I want to come in here and do a new recording, I could do it and just say, this is going to be the other stuff, let's call it. And again, I can pick the main location. I could pick a person responsible. Let's pick a different responsible person. Let's pick Catherine today. And Catherine's going to do this. And then again, I could basically import it from an Excel spreadsheet. I can actually go under more options and go under related. Of course, I can put comments, but where's all the lines? That's because the lines have not come in. If I do a recording plus, you have to hope you've got some sort of import recording or something to bring in, because I cannot run a function at this point to basically go and say, pull in what was on the master record. To do that, all your recordings from the main document in and of itself. So let's step off this again, go back one screen. Let's quickly make a new recording. Again, we're just going to only lines that are not in another recording. Gives me the differentials. Again, pick the main location because that's what we're playing with here, main location. And again, after we tab off, we come down here, okay. Takes a second, and it created my second. So now I'm much done. I'm ready to go give this out to everyone I need to give out. It's open. Hand this off to, say, Sally or Sam, or in our case, Catherine today. Hand that to her. Obviously, go out. And again, you can dump this out to an Excel recording. These are the items that were not on the first recording. And again, going blind, a few items that I have some item tracking on, and to fill in here, and then set those up. I'm not going to go through this one. Obviously, in lieu of time here, I want to be respectful that we want to finish up today and ask questions or do other things. So again, big thing here, I can actually print this and hand this out on paper. Let's give this, obviously, we'll give it a little view here. So Catherine can go do her counts. It does leave a very nice, easy, orderly fashion. Does not tell me, not this you'll have to fill in because it's a piece of paper. You could add lot number required. If you want to just do the Boolean or no, you could add that. It is not on this printout. Printout from Business Central. And of course, they can enter their quantities. Now, if I had a lot, obviously the quantities, you'll have to do it by lot. Serial numbers obviously require one serial number. Let's step off screen for just a second here. I want to show you what it's like using the export, because this one I think is a lot of fun. Being the fact that if you do export it out, if I open this up, I'm just going to open this up in question. I have a feeling I'm going to have to share this screen out because it's not going to be visible to you, to everybody on the screen. I want to show you what it's like. And of course, I could have sent this to import it into Excel. I'm not to, because it creates text file. So allow me 2 seconds to do a stop and a share again. So I'm going to do a stop and a share. Let me just do this real quick, and then we'll share back. So obviously you can see that this I would have imported into Excel to be a lot more palatable or visible to the fact that Excel is going to be a lot easier. You can see it brings in all the information that is necessary to go to Excel. If I had to figure all this out, everything number 0 I will fill in, because obviously that's the count. And then of course, if I needed a serial number, I would fill that in under the 2 serial number, the serial or lot number fields that are right after it. And again, I know this is not the most prettiest text file going, because obviously it would be nicer in Excel, but it gives the people an easy way of doing it in Excel. You save it as a text file, and then of course re-embed back in. And quickly stop sharing, jump NBC. So give me a second here to click the button again. We are learning how good Learners is when it comes to this. And here we go. We're back in here. So again, the nice thing is, of course, we can enter it and import it. Again, enter the serial, a lot tracking from the text file if necessary. I'm going to jump off this for just a second here, go back to my main screen. I'm not going to work on this physical inventory 8. I'm just going to show you also the fact that you can filter things. This counts for A and B items together. I can run that in totality here. If I just want to do a complete, if I want to do 2 people to a warehouse, I can actually open up and just look at the warehouse and just hand it out to 2 different people, 2 recordings. Or if you just, hey, look, Steve, I count things once a year. Let's just go do a quick physical order here, and let's go in. We'll create the next order number, and we're just going to say full physical. And the location, let's look for my white location here. Again, I don't have to do this. Of course, I'm doing this all today. And of course, then we'll just come up to calculate, under prepare, calculate, and let's just go get everything in a bin. So it goes out, make sure here, change my white location to make sure it matches my white up here, and say go to town. It will go out, and then it tells you something here. Please note, if directed put away and pick is set forth here, then obviously you're going to follow a different process, because obviously the physical inventory orders must follow the directed pick and put away. You cannot use this and set up here. It has to, right now my pick and put away is set to yes. Therefore, I cannot use this facility. I have to do it a different way in terms of physical inventory orders. Let me do it again. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to calculate the lines. I want to see what happens if I do this. Things that are not on inventory, sure, why not? And let's go. Let's make sure we have our white location. Let's see if this works or if I get yelled at. Again, you cannot use any form of the physical inventory order because it's a directed pick and put away. It requires you to follow the old physical inventory process accordingly, because directed pick and put away changes the options here on the physical inventory order. Again, even though it shows the location card, I can't just turn this off and like turn it back on. It's just not possible. You'll follow the old physical inventory way. Let me change this real quick to another location. I want to show you what happens. I'm going to pick my silver location, and then we'll do a calculate of my silver. And of course, we'll change this to silver here. And of course, let's click OK. Goes in and it found 13 lines. Now this one, of course, doesn't have directed pick and put away in place, which means I'm not following the formal warehouse physical inventory journal, because directed pick and put away are in motion that way, because I have to, when I do directed pick and put away, I do everything from my warehouse physical inventory journal because of that reason. Here, this physical inventory order does not allow you to do the warehouse physical inventory journal because it actually uses the base. It uses the physical inventory back to the regular item journal. Apologize for that. Again, I set it all up. I'm not going to do the recordings. I'm just showing you the difference between what happens when I pick a location with directed pick and put away, follow the warehouse inventory journal process versus everything else. And again, as you know, in locations, the second that box is checked, it has to follow the warehouse physical. If I can spell today, it might be the inventory journal process. This is where you would open it up. You don't have a recording. It's what I call the old methodology that came from NAV into BC. You'll follow your calculate. You can do your cycle counting here, but you must follow this process when you have directed pick and put away turned on. So obviously the advanced features of all the warehousing. It will work. Obviously I can come in here. It knows white because it's automatically preset for me because my white location is my directed pick and put away. Okay, gang. I know it's a little over half past the hour. Are there any questions? Any questions so far? Before I jump off of this and go back to my slides, any questions from the group?
Steve, I'll ask a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Having spent too many times out in the warehouse where they find a serial number or a lot number that was supposedly sold, people don't always pick the right stuff. Is it easy to add the serial number or the lot number if it isn't exposed out there?
If in the physical inventory orders, I'll just jump in, I'll just open up one, because when I do a full physical, I'm telling the system, I'll just use this one here. So because I told the system to please allow me, if I find something, I can add it after the fact. So if I found an item, let's say, and again, this is going to be a lot number, but if I found something that had a serial number and I did find it, I can come in here and still add it under the recording, the serial number or the lot number, even though it might think it's been sold, I mean, like you said. So I can add it to my recording. So if I was in my recording, and let's just make believe this is a serial number item, the speaker, it will be actually. If I found, it says it expects 2, but let's say one of them was really sold and one of them was not sold. So if I do a quick recording here, let's just dump in and make a quick recording for everything in this silver location. Let's do silver, go. And let's quickly open up the recording. Go into my recording. So in this list, I know this is a serial item because it's item track. If I come under here and I look into the serial numbers, you can see there's 2 serial numbers listed. Now, one thing to note when you do serial numbers, and I know this sounds really funny, I can only put one serial number in this field. There is no button here that's going to say, like, add an extra serial number. This is why the function in here is called copy line. If I copy this line and I can say I need 2 of these lines and I say go, now you have 2 lines. In fact, I have 3 because I should have said 1 more versus 2. I did it 3 times. So what I did was I found this. So let's say Rob in the first one, and I found this, and let me just get rid of this extraneous data. So the first time I'm going to pick ABC 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put the number 1 here. The second one I find, of course, let's just make believe we found BCD 1, 2, 3, and for some odd reason, they're out there roaming the streets, and I have another one I found. Let's just call it HHH 777, and I found that one. You can add things that you totally cannot, that you are, even if it was thought it was sold, but it really wasn't sold. Now, what's going to happen here, as you know, I'm obviously going to debit inventory, and the credit's going to be inventory adjustment because I found something on. Now, whether to investigate how the hell did this get out of the building, that's another story in terms of investigation. It will appear on the first screen, which means maybe the accountant or the inventory control person might want to investigate further. How did I find this when it should have been sold, et cetera, but it can record it. The same is true for lots.
I'll add one more question for you.
Go for it.
So on the warehouse inventory journal that we used to have, that we now still have to have for the white warehouse, have they changed the sort so you can print it in bin number as opposed to by default it prints in, or it creates in item number order?
So when I print this out, like if I'm printing this, as you can see,
not the physical order, the warehouse. The
warehouse
journal.
guide. Let's jump over. So in here, if I'm just going to calculate inventory real fast just to throw some inventory items in here. We don't have that many. So if here I have it, and this again this is not in perfect number order. It's actually, you can see it's all over the place. Could I sort it on the screen? Ascending. Here we go. I can do that, nice and pretty. When I click the word print, so let's again, give me a second here. When I print this, again, this is the list. Do I want to show the calculated? Of course not. Do I want to show that? Of course not. There is no sort button, but watch what happens. Let's blow this up again. It reverted it back to the line number. So right now it's in that line number order inside of the warehouse journal, line 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. Could I basically could I make this in terms of an extension to print it out in order? Sure, but it does not do it. As you can see, it's all over the place. Okay. The funny thing is it's not even alphabetical by zone. It's not even alphabetical by bin. It's just the way it came into the actual journal here. I can tell you that what I do appreciate, give me a second here. I tried this once. I tried sorting it on every one of these columns to figure out if one of these columns was the linchpin to everything. Was it zone? And I said sort it by ascending here. I tried this and reprinting it here, thinking it was going to change everything. Of course, I'm just going to say preview. Again, blow this up again. You can see there is no rhyme or reason. It's like pick to B, back to P, back to R. There's nothing that's telling me to make this in order. So I can tell you, I think an extension can make this happen under the word print, where actually there's a button that says sort by X, and it would, it would be that way. But no, it's not possible without a small extension from a programmer.
I was hoping they improved it. They didn't.
Nah, I think because I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know if it's because they're thinking more people might be going down the handheld path, which of course would be which means it would have worked because that journal is there, or if people are using apps that actually, some of the apps that are out there do offer that sorting ability when you process those apps. I know
Lori has a question for you too.
Yep,
that's what I was gonna say. You have a question in the chat, and it says, do you need to enter the serial numbers if the counts match?
Do I need to enter the serial numbers if the counts match? Yes. In the recordings, you must enter them. It does not default it in. It's not forced in. It does not. You have to enter these. It'll not take into this recording box. It is blank. You must enter it and if you don't enter it, this will not close itself out, which means the recording box does not get flagged to true, which means you cannot click the finish button. The same holds true if I was on the warehouse physical inventory journal for directed pick and put away. You must enter a lot of serial number. It is a required thing.
You also have another Q&A question from Mitch.
Go ahead.
What do you do if you find an item that should not be in that warehouse but is part of another warehouse?
If I find an item that belongs, let's use this, let's say the axle. Let's say this is not supposed to be in silver, it's supposed to be in the red warehouse. Obviously, what I would do, and again, this is filtered by here, I actually would not record this as 0, because again, you could record it as true, but personally, you can record it as 0 and then go to the recording for your red warehouse and please add that item there. Now, if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to rely on your people fixing it through the 2 recordings, one for silver and one for red, if you add it here as a positive, and you obviously in the red, it's supposed to be in red, and that's going to show negative, but again, it's not going to be found in that. You can do then the transfer between the 2 warehouses after the physical is done. And again, the person in the silver, I'm assuming, is not going to find a red because they're in the silver building versus the red building. But hopefully, Mitch, you get the gist what I'm saying. I personally would probably say if you're working with a group of people in 2 different buildings, I would record this. If I really did found this axle in the silver and it's supposed to be in the red, I don't know how somebody left it there by accident. I still would record it as I found it in silver and leave it there, because that way I can use it and consume it. But if you really are going to move it, if somebody's going to drive it over to red, I would make this obviously 0 because it's not going to be positive anyway. There's nothing found of an axle, and make sure the red one gets recorded properly on the red recording.
Okay.
Thank you, Jessie, for calling out the chats, the Q&A.
Yep, I don't see any more questions. So.
All right, so let me do this real quick. I'm going to stop sharing this one here, jump right back to my slide deck, and let's just finish this up. And I'll finish our day up here. Share the recording out. Let me just pick my window. All right, gang, we did our demo. So after the demo, and again, let's go to our next one. It's a big thank you. I mean, I hope everybody had a good time. I hope everybody learned something. That's the most important thing about our physical inventory in Business Central. You do have options. As you can see, if you're directed pick and put away, you're always going to use the warehouse physical inventory journal. Everybody else who does not go fully directed, again, you have a physical inventory orders. Love that. Great auditability, great inventory control. You can spread out the recordings to multiple folks. That's a great thing. If you are going to use handhelds, I'll always mention this. Obviously, the different ISVs that are out there, some of them have built-in physical cycle counting and inventory abilities within inside of their apps, and they do enhance this even further because they use their own tools, their own cycle counting, and obviously doing physicals using a handheld where you can spread it out and send out 9 handhelds with 9 different, obviously, cycle counts to do from. But again, a conversation for another day. If you do have any other questions about physical inventory, if you have anything, always reach out on email, find me on LinkedIn, or just find me anywhere and we can help you out. Hope everybody had a good time. If you think of something you'd like to learn in our national users group, which we do once a month, please, please, please reach out to one of us, reach out to Jessie or somebody, and reach out and say, hey, I'd love to learn XYZ. And that way we can schedule one of those as a recording here in our national users group, or reach out to your regional learners leaders. You can send them a little message in learners. You can send it to your leaders. Hey, leader, I would like to learn how to do consolidation. I want to know more about foreign currency. Whatever you want, please reach out to your leaders. We're here to help and help you learn more about Business Central. Jessie, back to you.
Yep, great, thank you. So just a reminder, our next National User Group meeting is on February 19th. So just be on the lookout. We should have that posted soon. And yeah, thanks to everybody who joined today, and we'll see you next month.